Hi everyone, I'm Matilda Butler and this is Women's Memoirs. Today I'm pleased to have Linda Joy Myers, founder and president of the National Association of Memoir Writers, visiting. Welcome Linda Joy, it's great to see you.
Hi Matilda, great to be here with you again.
If you don't already know Linda Joy, let me tell you just a little bit about her. She's the author of the memoir Don't Call Me Mother, Breaking the Chain of Mother-Daughter Abandonment. And I was just talking with Linda Joy, and she told me that the second edition is coming out in January through She Writes Press, and it's going to have a new subtitle. It's called A Daughter's Journey from Abandonment to Forgiveness. And the thing I like about the change in the subtitle there, because it's all about what we learn about in memoir, is that memoir writing actually helps us move forward in our own lives. And I think that that new subtitle really speaks volumes about the value of memoir writing. Now, Linda Joy is also the author of The Power of Memoir, How to Write Your Healing Story. And her book in progress is called 3 Stages of Memoir Writing, a workbook, which is also coming out in January through She Writes Press. Now, as if all of that isn't enough, she's also working on a novel about kinder transport with the working title of Secret Music. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that in the future. And although a discussion about any of these books would be a lot of fun today, I've invited Linda Joy to talk with you about a new anthology that she's developing, because we both thought that some of you might be interested in submitting a story for possible inclusion in this volume. Now, Linda Joy, I peek over at you here and I see you with that bright paisley shirt, which looks like the 70s, which makes
Dressing up for the era.
That's right, makes it absolutely appropriate for this anthology you're working on. I believe the working title is Times They Were A-Changing, Women Remember the 60s and 70s. Would you tell our viewers about the scope of the anthology and how they can submit their stories?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Matilda. It's great to be here with you, and I can really feel your passion for memoir and memoir projects, and I love that. So, yes, I'm very excited to be working with 2 other editors, Kate Farrell and Amber Starfire, to create the platform to bring out this new collection, an anthology of stories about women remembering the 60s and 70s. And we'll tell you later, I guess, how it all got started. But I've been wanting to do it for a long time, and Matilda remembered me talking about it years ago, and I didn't remember how long ago I was even thinking about it, but it was because of my value for that special era where women's lives were deeply affected by the times and by what happened in the 60s, and all the evolution of that era. And it was very, a very powerful era, very disruptive in many ways. And of course, growth doesn't go in a straight direction. And so what happens is we grow as we react to what is happening and change. And then the 70s is another really unique era. They sort of blurred together a little bit. I mean, it took us a while to realize the 60s were over, and by then I think it was 1979 or something. There was a lot going on, including Roe versus Wade, the passing of that law for choice, and other things for women, where women had a new idea of who they could be, very different perhaps from their mother's generation in the 50s. And I know you, Matilda, are really interested in that in the evolving stories of women through the decades in your book, Rosie's Daughters. So we share that interest. And so what you can know is, first let me tell you, the website is www.timestheywereachanging.com. And on that website, you're going to see some information there. We have a bar across the top that has very easy to find sections of our website, and lots of inspiring photos on the website where we had a lot of fun creating it. And Amber Starfire is the artist that created some of the banners and some of the art. So congratulations to Amber. She's really good at that. So our submission deadline is January 15th, 2013. We would like you to submit 2,500 words maximum, and we're accepting poetry too, with no maximum words or pages. And we want to make sure that people, it isn't just a witness to history, eyewitness to history. We want to know what happened to you. And we invite you to write in scene for some of it, as well as the reflection of the meaning that these moments have for you. Sort of the weaving of the action and what happened with, where did it end up inside of you then? And even where are you now? With what happened then. And we don't have, it can be just from the point of view of a 15-year-old, or it can be a reflection back and forth, but we really want a story. It's not a journal entry, and it's not just, I got to meet the president or something. It's much more than that. So there is a fee. There's a $20 fee for prose and $15 for poetry, and there are 3 levels of prizes: $300 for first prize, $150 for the second, and $75 for the third prize. So, and everyone who enters has a chance to win. So that's the background and the basics. Do you have a question about that, Matilda?
No, that's really great, and I can sense your excitement with all of this, and I, as you mentioned, happen to know that you've had this interest for a long time to do a book specifically on this topic, and I can peg it very well, which was 2006 was the first time, and I can give the story of that because I think it speaks to the importance of all of us sharing our stories, and I hope that a lot of the people that are watching this will decide to go ahead and submit and tell their personal stories from the 60s and 70s. But in 2006, I was the moderator on a memoir session panel at the East of Eden Writers Conference. And as soon as I had been asked to do that, I went out and I bought all the memoirs by the panelists so that I could ask semi-intelligent questions. And when I got to reading your memoir, Don't Call Me Mother, well, I just sat there sort of probably with my jaw open, and I was just amazed at how easily our paths could have crossed over the years. You lived with your grandmother in Enid, Oklahoma, while I lived in Oklahoma City. You came into Oklahoma City for your cello lessons, possibly, who knows, even on the same days that I was taking piano lessons. Later, we both married, and I married and moved to the Chicago area. I know you were in Chicago, and I think that maybe you even got married on that terrible storm in the spring of '67, but I was there at the same time. I was pregnant at that point. And so I remember that whole storm and being out in it, and you clearly remembered it since that related to your wedding. And then later we ended up, both of us, in Northern California. So I just kept finding all of these threads in our lives. And I really could sort of hardly wait to bring this up in the memoir session because I thought it'd be such fun. And I show up, and one of your students is in the audience and says, Linda Joy has let me know that she's sick and she can't make it tonight, and she wanted to say how sorry she was. I went, oh, shoot, I had all these great things. So, by then I just had to meet you, and we eventually did meet. We became friends. And during some of those really early conversations, I remember you saying you wanted to write a book about women's experiences during the 60s and 70s. And I think that this way in which this little story that I've told here, where the threads in your life really spoke to me and reminded me of parts of my life that I wasn't necessarily thinking about, and recalled things to me. And I think that that's what will be the end result of your anthology. It's going to be individual stories, and it's true it happened to one person, but there's the way that if it's written right, that it really does, it connects out with other people. Other people say, oh, I didn't know that was going on, and it's interesting, or, oh, wow, I remember when that was happening in my life, too.
Now I remember. Yeah, I think some of the themes that we chose, let me mention what some of them are, because I think they'll help people kind of focus on what they remember. You can write about anything, but we also picked a few major themes just because we thought that there were several major themes overarching that era. And the first one is Notes from the Underground, the early 60s. So I was still in high school while my co-editor, Kate Farrell, was in San Francisco kicking up her heels with the Beats over in North Beach. So she's just a little bit older than me, and she's an out there girl. So she thought that was an important era. And though I didn't live that, I've heard about it and read about it, just like you're saying. And we know that there are people that remember that time too, which is the early 60s. Mm-hmm. And then tune in, turn on, and drop out the hippie counterculture. And many of us remember that. Some people were very highly involved in communal living. For instance, Amber lived in a commune for quite a few years. And lots of people, we've gotten submissions already where people are talking about living in the commune. The whole idea of Timothy Leary and the experimentation with consciousness and drugs was going on at that era, and lots of people were caught up with that. And the thing I like to say is that the 60s occurred everywhere, not just in San Francisco, in the Haight-Ashbury, or in Golden Gate Park. That it happened to all of us, and it is a huge shift of consciousness and a huge shift of awareness about war, about women's rights. And then let's not forget the civil rights movement was in the middle of the 60s. And I know some people who were down there marching in Mississippi and witnessed a lot of things. So it includes not just the kind of wild out there dancing naked in Golden Gate Park kind of stories, and you can send those too, though those are good, but other very serious subjects, including the right of choice, like we mentioned before. So you've come a long way, baby. Feminism and women's rights. Might make you think about some of the moments where you began to feel that you, as a woman, maybe you could be different than your mother or your grandmother, or maybe they inspired you. I don't know. We all have our own stories. In some families, you're carrying on a tradition, and others you're breaking from that tradition.
Well, certainly that was the era also of the consciousness-raising groups.
Right. Which I had forgotten until somebody else reminded me. Yeah. That, oh yeah, so-and-so was in there. Yeah. In fact, my first husband said we went to one once, and I said, I don't remember it. I pride myself on my memory. I don't know what happened. I don't remember it. It's funny. Social unrest and the political movements, like I just mentioned, that's one of our themes, though. And the age of Aquarius, spiritual and human potential movements. Some people were in Esalen. One person we know, her mother was in Esalen. Wow. And changing how she was and who she was, and how did that affect her children. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of ways that we can connect with the memories of those times. And the other thing I recommend is Netflix, which I mail out my little red package every day pretty much. They have some great documentaries on the 60s. One of them is called The Hippies. One of them is called The Summer of Love. They have, I'd say 10 or so specifically on the 60s and that era. So if you want to, and then I watch them. One of them is every decade, every year of the 60s, they go through and they show movie clips and newsreel clips and interviews of people, and it really makes you remember things. Oh yeah, I remember when this was on TV, but you don't know you remember it till you see it.
Okay, well, since you mentioned that, and I'm really glad you brought up movies as a way of sort of surrounding yourself with some stimuli that helps to bring back memories. And one of the things I love on that website you mentioned is the way that you and your co-compilers, Kate and Amber, have posted a photo of each of you, two of them, one taken in the 1970s and then a current photo. And photos are such a great way to help us recall what was going on in our lives at a certain point. Do you think that that's one of the ways to help writers remember their stories from the 60s and 70s?
I do, because you'll find yourself in those photos and you'll go, oh gosh, I forgot about that. Or, oh, I love that outfit. Yeah. I have an outfit that I loved, and I made it myself. It had a bare midriff, bell-bottom pants, and a big long belt, and I just had to laugh. But it's very indicative of the era. Yes. And the fun of some of the clothes, but the look on my face belies the clothes that I'm wearing. And so if I were to write from that photograph, I would have to address both the fun outfit and the sad look. And so, for instance, when you're looking at your photographs, try to translate and look at, are there any conflicts and contrasts between what it shows and what you know, or what you know happened right before the photograph was taken or right after, because a lot of times that's where the story is too.
Yeah. No, that is where the story is, and that's really what I think people want. They want to know not just what happened, but what did it mean to you? How did it change your life? And I think that that's really what you're looking for in these stories, based on what you've been saying here. So as we close, Linda Joy, would you just remind everyone again about the website information where they can find out, as you say, even more information, and then the date when the entries need to be in?
Great. Yes. timestheywereachanging.com. And again, get your stories in preferably before January 15th, but you have until January 15th, 2013. We are looking for the book to, we'll let people know by April if they're in the anthology. And also, we'll probably do some editing, and we'll work with you if you're selected to polish up your piece. So we'll be also doing the editing. And then we plan to have it published by June 2013 and be celebrating.
Oh, that's great. Okay, thank you, Linda Joy, for coming. I look forward to more conversations with you about some of your other books, but this is a very exciting project. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.